Joining me in studio now is Ken Belkin, a New York criminal defense attorney, and Jessica Bublitz is also with us. She is an attorney based out of Idaho with over 20 years of experience in the courtroom. We're so happy to have both of you with us. Ken, I want to start with the breaking news today. Not really unexpected. It seemed like they were going to go for the death penalty. But when I saw that document, the first thing I thought was, wow, the state must really feel they've got it like a rock solid case to go after the death penalty.
They've certainly telegraphed that they think they have a rock solid case. But moreover, you know, there's 4 counts of first-degree murder, a count of burglary in there. They've certainly got what it takes to seek a capital punishment here.
Were you surprised to see the filing? I mean, they still had 24 days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I think it's an egregious crime. If Mr. Kohberger is guilty, there's going to be a problem for him. He's going to face this. But, you know, I don't know that he is. There's DNA on a sheath. There's no other DNA of his present at the scene. That's a little bit strange to me.
Jessica, let's go to you. And what Ken just said is a big development. I mean, it came out in the court documents Friday. I got a text. There was another document dump, so I immediately get on the website trying to find anything new. And that is the first thing that stood out to me. Ann Taylor wrote crystal clear, no connection between Bryan Kohberger and the victims, that there is no DNA evidence from the victims in his car, in his house, in his office. How significant is that, Jessica?
We're still early on in the case, and we have to keep in mind, in a case recently such as Vallow, they didn't disclose DNA until pretty much the 11th hour. That was still being processed, still being looked at. So this is a little early to say there's nothing out there. I would guess that the labs are still going through a lot of this information that they've been given. And sometimes it's not disclosed immediately, and maybe it has been disclosed and they have a whole lot of information to go through. Of course, it's possible that after they get through all of this, there isn't anything else. You know, at that point, I'm not a scientist. I would honestly just have to defer to somebody who is an expert who could tell me what would it take for that DNA to show up or not show up and that kind of thing.
One of the big comments that I've seen on Twitter, Ken, is maybe Ann Taylor just doesn't know that they found DNA in the car or the apartment. How would she know? Maybe she doesn't have access to everything right now. But she made it crystal clear in that document. I mean, would she have said that if she didn't know that she had all the information?
I mean, this guy was a criminology PhD student, so he might have taken steps to avoid leaving DNA. We know from the eyewitness account that the man they believe was him roaming the house was wearing a mask. And so, you know, he might have taken steps to mitigate his leaving his DNA. But it's very easy to leave DNA. I always make this joke anytime I go on TV about a case involving DNA. By sitting across from you right now, we are bathing each other in DNA. It just is the nature of the beast. And as far as the other 2 people who were discovered there, look, this is a busy college co-ed apartment. There are people coming and going all throughout the day. There are 4 people with active social lives. So it doesn't surprise me that there's lots of different people's DNA on the scene.
Yeah, that occurred to me, too. I mean, I was out there. Everybody called it a party house. And when they mentioned that there was DNA of 2 other men specifically found, I mean, that doesn't really seem like a huge shocker.
Yeah, but if you are the defense, you would like to know your client's life is at stake. Hey, I'd like to know who these other people are. Maybe there's something in their social media or their message history of them that might lead to a motive and maybe a possible suspect.
So, Jessica, I mean, even if they're trying to muddy the waters, the defense, when it comes to the DNA and bringing up the fact that the victim's DNA wasn't found in all those places, how do you get around, Jessica, the fact that Bryan Kohberger's DNA was found on the knife sheath? I mean, there's a lot of people that say, wait a minute, that's just the smoking gun. How do they get, how do they get around that?
It was found, right, it was found on a knife sheath that presumably they're going to be able to connect potentially to an earlier purchase of that type of knife itself. There's all this additional information that could be coming out linking this defendant to that knife sheath potentially as well. Plus, I mean, to me, the fact that it's not up, you know, hidden away in a closet somewhere, it's not like they found it randomly somewhere in the room. It was right there in the crime scene, connecting it to the crime. That's a huge piece of evidence. And what they're going to be doing is they're going to be looking at not just that, but all of the other things that link this defendant to that offense. So while there may be other DNA out there connecting other individuals to being present in that home, it doesn't mean anything if they're not connected to the crime itself in some other way.
Interesting. And Ken, Ann Taylor has called the DNA process, she said, a bizarrely complex DNA tree experiment. And when you read through her filings, essentially, she's claiming that they went on this like fishing expedition, that they started looking at, these extended family members through people who, you get the DNA test to see what your heritage is, and that they're not explaining, the state is not explaining exactly how they came up with everything that brought them to the DNA match. Do you think she has a point?
I mean, she definitely has a point. And I'll tell you, backing up to the knife sheath, it does strike me as suspicious. If this man is roaming around the apartment murdering 4 people, the only DNA left was on a single knife sheath, no other DNA was left elsewhere, that begs certain questions to me, because in the random occurrence of the crime, he would surely leave DNA other places. For it to only be in that one specific place, tying him to the potential murder weapon, I mean, that's something that, dare I be paranoid and say, could be, forged in some way.
Interesting. Part of tomorrow's hearing goes back to whether or not the state needs to turn over more discovery. The defense wants to find out more about what led up to that final DNA conclusion, that big, what they called the DNA tree experiment.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.